welcome to Bio Basics Huddle. This is Ramesh Chandran from Bio Basics. Some of you may be new to Bio Basics. We are an organic company, food company working for the past 5 years, offering over 300 organic, chemical-free whole food products, ranging from fresh produce like veggies and fruits and such, to grocery items like rices, millets, oils, etc. And you can order these online and offline. You can check us out at our website, and other details will follow now. Some of you may also be new to these huddles. We've started this somewhere in May, and today is our 10th huddle. And these are basically get-togethers from among friends, where we talk about things that matter to all of us: food and health, environment, sustainability, and such. And today we are going to talk about food, and all of us talk about food, good food. But one of the questions that each of us have to ask ourselves is, what is good food? And what defines good food? And to some, it is the taste, and perhaps only the taste. And they say that whatever is tasty is good food. It's simple, right? And to some others, it is the obvious physical attributes, like when it comes to vegetables and fruits, like color and freshness and size and shape and such. And many of us look for fresh looking greens and carrots that are long and slender, and capsicum tomatoes which are shiny, and lady's finger which we can break with our hands, right? Which are a test of freshness. And then there are those who go in for beautiful packaging when it comes to processed foods. And some others who go for celebrity endorsements. But are these what determine good food, is the question. And I ask, what if the food is extremely tasty, beautifully presented, great color, shape, but comprises of food laden with chemicals, unsafe to consume and harmful to our bodies? And that is a critical question. To us at BioBasics, good food is about safety first. Clean food, food without chemicals, food as nature intended, food that our bodies recognize as food and know how to assimilate, food that nourishes, not harms our bodies, without too much of processing. So today we'll talk about processed food and associated concerns and issues. And processed food is probably the biggest villain of all foods, things that many children and even adults are almost addicted to. And some of you may be familiar with Michael Pollan, who's an American food writer, who's very famously said, he's got a book called Food Rules, and he talks about so many rules, 60 rules or so. And one of them is, don't consume any food that is advertised on TV. One of his other rules is, if your grandmother cannot recognize the food, it is not food. So it was my pleasure when I first spoke to our guest a week ago to know that she's all in favor of eating clean. So I'm very, very pleased to introduce Sandhya Manian, who's going to talk about exactly that, eating clean. A little bit about Sandhya. Sandhya is a holistic nutritionist and also a natural farmer. She combines traditional Indian wisdom and modern science. And she has educated many folks on simple, sustained diet practices. She has done her master's in dietetics and food service management. She's worked in the wellness industry and now consults for her clients, helping them with their goals. And she started in 2019, last year, Wellness with Sandhya. So please check it out on Instagram and Facebook, Wellness with Sandhya. And she lives in Chennai with her family and is also into organic and natural farming, as I mentioned. So before we get into a conversation with Sandhya, I just wanted to let you all know, like all huddles, this session is being recorded, and the recordings will be available on YouTube channel early next week. So all of you are unfortunately on mute, but we want this session to be as interactive as possible. So please type in your question in the chat box as and when you have questions. Do not wait for the end of the session. And Madhu, who is the host, will pick it up from there, and Sandhya will help address those questions. So overall, this session will be for an hour. Please stay with us till the end, and we'll share the contact details of Sandhya and BioBasics if you need to get in touch with any of us directly. And please also leave your feedback before you leave the session. It will help all of us make it better in the future. So once again, welcome to everybody. Welcome to Sandhya. And Sandhya, you want to start off by talking about eating clean to start with, and then we'll get into questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. Vanakkam and welcome to all. So just give me a moment. Let me share the screen on clean eating. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, clean eating is the primary step towards wellness. If anyone thinks that you want to get healthy, then the first step that you have to take is basically see how clean your food is. So when we say clean, what does it mean? To simply say, your food has to be separated from non-food particles. And it can be divided into three aspects: physical, biological and microbiological, and chemical. Microbiological, all of us are familiar with it now. We all know what is COVID. We all know what are viruses and bacteria. So that's one part, and cooking takes care of that part mostly. And eating fresh food will take care of that. So these are the basic things that will eliminate microbiological and biological hazards. Physical can be removed just by seeing and picking the non-food particles, and that we do very commonly. What we miss the most is the chemical part, and that's what is it's very invisible, and it's usually added. It began as an unintentional part earlier. That's when the Green Revolution and all that, and many of the farmers actually didn't know that this could cause so many hazards. Now they know it, but they're not able to come out of it. That's the sad part about it. So it's added, many of the chemicals are toxic and it's invisible, and it's added, it comes into your food, of course, with farming, and also in storage, it's to prevent the pest attack, also to enhance the look of your product. And the most dangerous part is when it comes in processing. Basically, it started with making the food available for many of us by extending shelf life, but that has become the most dangerous part of today's life. And many cheap substitutes are there, and now the food has been designed to keep people under the company's control. That's how we should say it. So, for example, your dals, you can see the two images, right? One of the dal is unpolished and it's natural. On the right side, the one which is very attractive could be not just because of the variety of dal, but could also be because of the chemical added in it after preparing the dal, after processing the dal. Simple test to identify this is just wet your hands and put your hands inside the dal and take it out. If there is a white covering, then it means it's a natural dal. It's not been treated with any chemicals or colors or dyes. But if there is even a slight tinge of yellow color, then it means it has dye. And this is very common in the market. So don't get attracted by the color of even your dals. Food technologies, it's a very common and fancy term these days, but they actually invent chemicals. And these chemicals are basically designed to hack your brain to stimulate certain kind of addiction. So you go to the product again and again. And many times I have found people who cannot recognize the original flavor of vanilla when I show them this is vanilla and this is coming from a bean called vanillin and this is the extract. They could not connect to it because they're always used to the vanilla that is presented on the screen. The most famous company is Bush. Okay, so all the essences, all the cheap essences that are used in all your bakery products, or even in all your, some people even make sweets at home, they add a drop of vanilla essence or cinnamon essence or cardamom essence. Actually, it's just poison. It comes under the classification directly under poison, and even FSSAI is planning to stop these chemicals. It was planned to stop these chemicals by 2020, but probably it is going to take some more years. But if we are aware and if we are going to say, I don't want any food with these chemicals, I'm okay to take it as natural as it is, then we can escape these chemicals. Another example is a kesari powder. It's nothing but azo dye. Azo means do not consume, do not touch. That's the meaning. But that's what we use in our kesari. Many of us make kesari at home. It's the most common sweet and simple sweet. And all you do is add a pinch of this dye, which is basically toxic. And where do they use this chemical? They use it in leather, processing and coloring the leather and in garments, and also in food industry. So not just kesari, even your gopi Manchurian or your chicken fry or whatever you eat in a restaurant, and the moment you see your hands are colored in red, that's because of this azo dye. So kesar, actually the reason for the name kesari is because of kesar, which gives a natural color. But the same name has been used and it got transformed to, just like how noodles is no more called as noodles but as Maggi. Now it has become this kesari, which is toxic. Yeah. So food technologists basically has invented chemicals to hack your brain, stimulate addiction. The moment you see when you imagine kesari, nobody imagines it in the form of white color with strands of saffron. We all imagine it in orange color or red color or yellow color. That is the level of addiction and memory it has created in us. And we all celebrate birthday parties. And I'm sure most of the kids are unwell and have fever and cold for the next 1 week, or even asthma attacks and wheezing attacks for the next 1 week immediately after the birthday party. Why does this happen? Any idea? Would you like to type on the chat box? Have you experienced this?
At least I have come across some children who are very hyperactive after such a birthday party. They are not able to sleep for a long time.
Exactly. Yes, that's because of sugar, and sugar is also a stimulant. So many children experience stimulation effect after a lot of sugar. And what we give them in a birthday party, most of us give colorful cakes, which has a lot of chemicals, sugar and maida, and you give them juices, which are not mostly fruit juices, but packaged juices or tang or any rasna. All these are again chemicals, and some fries. Deadly combination. So immediately their immunity goes for a suppression. A research has been conducted, and the results are that with 1 teaspoon of sugar, your immunity goes down by 50% for the next 3 hours. And if you're going to provide a deadly combination, then it means your immunity is gone for at least next 8 to 9 hours, 100%. And you're bringing in people from all over the place. So you're exposing your child to a lot of pathogens. So that's why our children fall sick, and the most common virus is your common cold. So that's why most of our children are down with common cold and fever and wheezing right after their birthday party. Okay, this is one classic example that many of you could connect to. Then we all give them health drinks, or we all think if somebody is hospitalized, we have to give them health drinks, buy them an Horlicks, or give children Complan because they'll grow, or give Bonvita because they will feel more energetic. But what is there in each of this? It's basically trash. At least 80% of the composition is just purely sugar. And if you go through the ingredients list, it's purely malted barley and some other kind of grains, which is the minimum part, and the major part is milk solids and sugar under various names, and a lot of chemicals and acidity regulator. Why do you think you need acidity regulator in your food product? It means it has a lot of chemicals and it's highly acidic, and it has to be subdued so that when you add it to milk, it doesn't get split. So you need something called acidity regulator that will make you feel that the milk is fine and it looks normal and it doesn't split and it's healthy. Okay? So that's why you might have seen this. If children are given Complan, they experience a lot of stomach discomfort. We think it's healthy and we give it right in the morning on empty stomach, and immediately the child has stomach upset and cries, but the mother force feeds the child with Complan. I've seen this many times. Okay? It's a dangerous thing to do for your kids, and you're just basically providing junk if you're going to eat any of this. There are a lot of gimmicks when you label. Nowadays, labeling is by itself is a study, and there are a lot of gimmicks. So when you say something as sugar, now people are more aware. So recently I went to a shop and I found out a woman, she was diabetic, and she was inquiring with the shopkeeper and asked him whether it contained sugar, and the label had sucrose. The shopkeeper guy didn't know whether it was sugar. So he said, no sugar, madam. Then I had to immediately interfere and say, madam, sugar has many different names. Sucrose is the chemical name. So it has sugar and it is not for diabetic people. So please don't consume. Okay? So this is how labels are so, there's a lot of gimmicks around this and nobody knows about it. So sugar has 100 different names, and over here, can you identify what is the sugar composition or component present in this label? Most of you might be having Heinz tomato ketchup or Maggi. Okay, so there is something called,
Yeah, it's not fair for me to say this, but I think
we have a comment. We have comments that say fructose.
Yeah,
okay,
so
great.
high fructose, the corn syrup. I think that is
Yes.
the equivalent of.
Yes. So it's an extract from corn, and it's basically sugar. And if normal sugar provides 10 times of sweetening agent, this sugar can provide 30 to 40 times of high sugar taste with the same quantity. So the percentage of sweetness with high fructose corn syrup is high. Thereby, the ability to trigger insulin is also very high. So these are the different names that you can find on your food product. Crystal fructose, it's nothing but sugar from fruits, sugar extracted from fruits. However, you call fruits healthy. If sugar is extracted from fruits, then it means purely sugar, and it's highly toxic. Likewise, you have castor sugar, high fructose corn syrup, liquid glucose, oat syrup, rice syrup. So we all think that there is some syrup made out of rice and it's healthy, but it's not so. It's just sugar. So these are the different names. And this beet sugar is most dangerous because you find it in most of the coffee shops where they use monin syrup. And the main component over here is the beet sugar. And you never know the source of this beetroot, whether it is genetically modified or whether it has any other toxins. We never know that. So none of these comes out in the label. All you can find is just a different name for sugar. So we have to be careful on, we have to understand and identify these names because it's very important these days. So the most important snack we all consider it as healthy is your peanut candy, right? It is healthy only if it is made out of jaggery. But most brands today use liquid glucose. You can just check the label. You will identify this component called liquid glucose, and it makes the candy so crispy, and the shelf life is extended for over 1 year, and it provides double the amount of calories compared to your normal sugar. So if 1 teaspoon of sugar provides about 4 calories, this is going to provide about, 1 teaspoon of sugar is going to provide 45 calories. This will provide 90 calories. So your calories will double, the chemical composition goes up, so your liver is screwed up. So we have to be very careful on what we are eating. Every product in the market that's highly packaged and highly marketed, we have to question it and look deep into the labels. And I think you can identify this brand. This is a biscuit packet, your Mari biscuit. On the pink one, that's the label of your Sunfeast extra fiber biscuit. Okay, can you see the number of chemicals present in each of this label? Okay, so they say it's wheat, and they say it's whole wheat, wheat bran, wheat fiber, but then comes your most risky part is your refined palm oil, which is going to provide a lot of trans fat and saturated fat that can clog your arteries if you consume it on a regular basis. Even 2 biscuits a day for about 3 to 4 months, sure shot, it will clog your arteries. And look at the number of chemicals. Just to make the product more tasty by saying that it is whole grain and has a lot of fiber, look at the number of chemicals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 chemicals, and none of the chemical name is indicated on the label. Okay, so these chemicals are nothing but all this INS that is indicated on the label is nothing but it's an international numbering system for food additives. And each additive, let's see what each additive is. INS 500 is sodium carbonate and bicarbonate, nothing but your baking soda. So if it's used in marginal amount, it's okay. It's a leavening agent, it's a rising agent. It will also make your cakes and biscuits that rising quality is because of this. The problem is it's going to leave a lot of sodium in your food, which means even if you control salt intake in your food, if you're going to have a pack of biscuits, still your sodium intake is high by at least 2 grams per day. And World Health Organization says you can consume only up to 5 grams of salt per day. But if you're going to consume 2 to 4 biscuits in a day, then you're stepping up your salt by another 2 to 3 grams unknowingly. And 503 is ammonium carbonate, and it smells like salt. That's the reason behind adding it. So all your salt biscuits like Monaco, the moment you open the pack, you feel it's so different. You can feel the sense of salt. Your Checkers, all those cheeselings. These are the products which will have ammonium carbonate. And nowadays we get hair dye that is free of ammonia. That is the impact of ammonium in the body. Ammonia or ammonium, not much of difference in composition. It's highly lethal. 450 is diphosphate, it's an emulsifier. And 471 is a fatty acid, and it's also an emulsifier. 322 is a lecithin, and it's an emulsifier. So what is this emulsifier? Emulsifier is nothing but, if it's present naturally, then you can kind of compare it to mayonnaise or soya lecithin. So these the only natural lecithin is from soy. But the ones that are artificially made is nothing but a surfactant. Okay, so it acts on the surface. It keeps the fat and the water as one particle. Okay, so whatever is present in the soap is also going to be present in your food. So what will happen if you consume it on a regular basis? And where is this emulsifier present? It is present in your ice cream, in your milkshakes, in your smoothies, anything that is packaged and has things that will not separate, or even in your vegetarian mayonnaise. All these things has surfactants, and it's going to corrode your intestinal lining. The basic reason for intestinal disorders, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, and gluten intolerance could be mostly because of this, because it corrodes the intestinal lining and it kills all the good gut microbiota. Aspartame, it has become very common because nowadays in any ice cream shop, any ice cream outlet, we find this product, because many of us are calorie conscious, and we think by opting for sugar-free ice cream, we are cutting down on calories or managing diabetes. But it is a known neurotoxin, it's a known carcinogen. Neurotoxin is going to affect your neurons, which means your brain and your spinal cord system can be affected. And if neurotoxicity is going to increase in your body, then as you age, you are at risk of Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, and many such disorders. Carcinogen, all of us are mostly familiar with this term, nothing but the most dangerous, and we don't even have much of medications for this ailment, cancer, and it could come at any age. It could affect any individual, and it also affects liver. If you check the label, it will say contraindication, and for people who have liver or kidney disorders, do not consume it. Why? Because straight away it's lethal. Even they know that. Okay? So it's better to avoid this, and all these toxic components will multiply when the product is heated. So when do we heat it? There are people who make kesari or sweets and gulab jamun. I find it in many of the restaurants where they say sugar-free sweets. And there is one column of sugar-free ice creams and sugar-free sweets. And when the product is heated, the carcinogenic quality increases more because of the bonds that are released while heating. And all your reduced calorie fruit juice and your no calorie chewing gums also has this product. So it's best to avoid. When you say you have to reduce sugar, when somebody says you have to reduce sugar because of certain ailments, it's better you cut down on sugar and not look for any sugar alternatives. Yeah. And the most common product that many of us, or even kids, especially during COVID, parents are in a pressure to provide a lot of junk or a lot of snacks actually, but it ends up as junk for kids. So what happens with this? It's just 1 ounce, which is approximately 35 grams. So one small sachet of Lay's is going to provide 180 milligrams of sodium, which is approximately 2 grams of salt, with just one small packet. So you can connect it, how harmful it is for your heart health, or even for your appetite, for your gut health, for overall health, and it's highly carcinogenic. So whatever we buy in attractive packaging, they do list it on the label. If we can understand label, then it's better for us. The most ideal option would be to not even buy these products that are packaged. If you can make it at home, well and good. If you can't, then buy it from trusted sources where it is locally made. Yeah, and these products are also filled with lot of nitrates. That's why the package is so fluffy and the product is so crisp. And these nitrates are known carcinogen, especially colon cancer is caused because of these nitrates. So what should we do? We should only be the change, just like how Gandhiji has told, and we should try to eat and live organic and look for healthy options. Say, don't buy fruit milkshakes or fancy bars and candies and pastries and all the products that are processed. So eating clean is basically not just physical or biological, but mostly chemical, and this is where it is invisible. So try to remove and get conscious about the chemicals that are getting into your food on a daily basis and look for alternate options. I'm open to questions now.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandhya. I'll start with some of my own questions. So what are the, you mentioned sodium, so let's just go back. I had some. So how does sodium affect the excessive sodium? How does it affect the body?
Okay. To say it in colloquial term, it's going to increase the thickness of blood.
Okay.
Okay. So once the thickness of the blood increases, the flow is affected. Flow is affected in your arteries. So if the flow is affected, then the heart has to pump more. If the heart has to pump more, then the blood pressure rises. So the high BP, hypertension, and cardiac diseases are mostly because of high salt. And in Ayurvedic terms, if you want to see what it can do, it can increase your pitta. So if your pitta increases, then your gut can get affected, your digestive system can get affected, it can increase your acidity, and that acidity could be just in your stomach, or it could also impact your skin. So some rashes or itchy skin, and a lot of illness that you can't even find a remedy despite applying so many chemical treatments. If it doesn't work, it could be basically because of high pitta or high salt in your diet, and just removing all this from your diet can majorly help and reverse these symptoms.
Okay. And you're talking about neurotoxins and carcinogens. So just for the benefit of our audience, can you distinguish what it is? How is it different?
Okay. Yeah. So neurotoxins, basically our brain is empowered with a lot of cells called neurons. And neurons are the ones which is connected, it's present in millions in our central nervous system, in the brain and the spinal cord. And whatever information that is processed in the entire body is through this neurons. So it's like synapses, it fires from one neuron to the other neuron in fraction of seconds. And if this coordination is going to be affected because of the presence of toxin in the body, then it could lead to something as complicated as paralysis. If the toxicity increases, then the connection is disturbed between the brain and the spinal cord. So it could cause paralysis, or it could cause loss of memory because some part in the brain goes numb or inactive, or dopamine secretion could be affected, which could cause Parkinson's disease. So what it could lead to is it will be a new name in the list of diseases. This one neurotoxin, if I say neurotoxin, it can cause so many types of other diseases, and we may not even have names for these. So that's neurotoxin. Carcinogen is basically how do I say? There are a lot of free radicals that keeps produced in our body, and when the free radical is going to be constantly damaged by some particle in the environment, it could be the chemicals in the air, or it could be chemicals in the food or in the cosmetics. And if this is going to keep attacking the free radicals and the damage is going to increase, then the cells will start multiplying in the body because of lack of balance in the cells due to the oxidation process. So when this multiplication is high in the blood, it's blood cancer. If it's high on the skin, then it's skin cancer. It's basically the body has no control on the number of cells it has to produce. So it keeps producing more number of cells. Cancer is as simple as that. It's overgrowth in one particular area, and that's basically because of the carcinogen, either in the environment or in the food.
So why does the body produce more cells there? Because of the carcinogen?
Because it affects the balance in the system.
Okay. Okay. So going back to some of the additives that you mentioned, I remember that we used to have some of these sessions earlier, and we talk about, I think at last count, there are 555 food additives that the government of India has approved for
Yes.
use across all these processed foods. So, and there are, like you said, there are fancy names like emulsifiers and this, and people don't know that they are chemicals. So, can you help us understand why these additives are added? You just touched upon it, but can you go into a little bit more depth as to why did these additives come in the first place?
Okay. So if you remember in early 90s or even in 80s, if you buy a packet of biscuits, how long will it last? Crisp. It was hardly crisp. Right. And slowly the invention of plastic packaging along with something as additives started in your food, and that's when your biscuits become more crispier. Otherwise, in a shop, the stock would not last for even a week because the biscuits will be really soggy. Okay? So to extend the shelf life and to make the product more palatable and attractive, it started with extension of shelf life so that people get enough food, because earlier in 70s or even before that, there were a lot of scarcity for food. So it started with increasing shelf life. Slowly, when the food became too much and there was too many competitors around in the food market, too many brands came up, each one discovered one chemical after the other chemical after the other chemical through the food technologists, so that the texture is attractive and it has the specific chemical can go and touch upon your specific neurons in the brain that will trigger memory. Okay. So when it goes and triggers the memory, every time you have a low mood, you will want to go and reach out to that food. So each company identified something unique for their product like that, and that's how these food additives list got extended. Why would we need the smell of salt when we all want to just taste salt? Yeah, I think I can quote the examples like 50/50 or your Monaco. Compared to normal biscuits, the other biscuits will only trigger a sweet flavor because it has that specific chemical. But these biscuits will specifically trigger the salt flavor through your system. Salt doesn't smell, but this happens. So it is a huge business, and it involves a lot of technology. And with this technology, they want to influence your brain and create this so that you are more loyal to one brand than the other brand.
And so along the shelf life and also that taste part of it, I think what we've been talking about also is how, at least in the raw grocery section, side, not the processed food, but the raw groceries, a lot of chemicals are added to keep away the infestation by insects and other things. So I'm not sure what they add for that, but I keep saying, earlier, during my childhood days, my mother would give me some rava to actually pick up some, all the insects from. But nowadays, you buy a packet of rava, you will not find anything there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there is some kind of a chemical treatment there.
Yeah, and also there is airtight packaging and nitrates. These nitrate compounds will not be allowing all these life to come back.
Okay.
So what can give life to an organism will not give life to us also. That's the truth, underlying truth. As simple as that.
Yeah. So these INS numbers are the international numbering system you talked about, and that actually tells you that there are certain chemicals. So, I mean, from our perspective, how do we, as a consumer, are there certain INS numbers we should avoid? Are there certain, how do we know? It's completely a black box. So how do we know? How do we deal with that?
If a company is not willing to say what chemical it has in its food by just saying it's sodium bicarbonate, then it's best not to buy. Because it's very difficult to find out what each INS is. If it says INS, it means it's food additive. The only chemical that can be mildly in traces, it can be allowed is sodium bicarbonate, because there is no other alternative for baking, eggless baking. That is only for eggless baking. If you're using eggs, then you can make your cake very well without this agent. Otherwise, there is no need for any of this INS in your food product. So I would say if there is one, if you're buying a product and it has some INS, then it's better not to buy.
But I suspect that if that is the condition we apply, probably we will not be eating any of the processed foods, which is probably
that's the most ideal situation that's required.
Yes, yes.
This has been already told even in 1930s by Gandhiji, where he has written in his diet and diet regime that food has become more of refined, has a lot of sugar and lot of chemicals, and he has also spoken about vanaspati. Hydrogenated vegetable oil is bad for health. So I would say he was the diet guru of India after the independent India, and he has already stated that without any research facts, but by just seeing what's happening in the community. So from there, even till today, it's almost 150 years and it's still the same. It's chemicals and it's let's stay away from it. Eat fresh, eat food that is homemade, or eat normal snacks that could be prepared at home, or get it from somebody who makes it without any toxins, who is reliable, or buy products that are baked from a reliable source. Otherwise, it's best not to eat. There are so many simple alternatives like fruits and seeds and nuts. Why should we go for all this junk? I think if we stop watching television, most of the problem is sorted.
Yeah, the other thing, what I think the other trend that we have seen in the last 5 to 10 years, I'm seeing, or I think all of us are seeing, is that there is this whole thing of healthy food, right? And so there are healthy canned juices, and there are healthy energy drinks and things like that. Now you mentioned the Complan and Bonvita and things like that. They're supposed to be healthy, and it's for children. And there is Horlicks for women. There's Horlicks for children and things like that. It's a strange thing how they call it healthy. So can you talk a little bit more about this canned juices and some of these health products which are processed products?
Yeah, canned juices, interestingly, if you check the label, they will just not mention sugar as sugar. They will say it as sucrose and fruit sugar and fruit pulp, and contains real fruit pulp. So actually it's not real, so that's why I have to put it in the label as real. And if you check the nutrition label, then that's where you can find the number of calories and the amount of sugar, and it will be in such a font that nobody can actually read it. And it will have, you will definitely see the terms called INS, permitted class 2 preservatives, acidifying, acidity regulator. So these will be definitely there. So any food which contains this, even if it says fruit juice and 100% fruit juice, if it contains even one of this chemical, then nothing from that fruit is going to be of help to the body. Basically, the antioxidants present in the fruit is going to be oxidized if it's going to be exposed for such a long time. A lemon which is cut and squeezed and drunk has a lot of antioxidants, 100% antioxidants. All the vitamin C that we mentioned about amla or lemon is only when it's cut and eaten fresh. If it's going to be cut and then packaged and the shelf life is extended, all you get is probably 5% or 10% of the nourishment. And if it's going to be with all the emulsifiers and chemicals, even that is not available to the body. So it's best to stay away from all this. And if you are in a position to buy any of this, then please check the label and don't get deceived by their health claims on the front side, but just see the label on the back side, which will say the composition. So simple solutions are you can buy buttermilk from a roadside shop or tender coconut, which is much safer microbiologically also. Yeah.
Right. So I'm a little surprised, Sandhya, that you did in the list of things you mentioned, you didn't mention the colas, the various soft drinks. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think in many ways that is probably one of the bigger culprits here.
Yeah, but I assume somehow that people are a bit aware about it these days and not really consuming it. And cola is definitely high on sugar and acidic, and it has phosphoric acid. And if any of you are still consuming it, just do this experiment at home. Buy an egg and add one glass, about 100 ml of cola, and drop this egg and see what happens next day morning. My child was, she was too attracted by all this because of the hoarding she saw once and she wanted to consume this. So all I did was did this experiment and showed her this is what happens to an eggshell. It just completely erodes. So imagine what could happen to your tooth or to your bones. Do you think you should still consume it? This is what I asked. And after seeing the results, she said, no, I don't want to do this. Then she started researching about this and then said, Mama, this cola is a wonderful alternative to clean the toilet and to clean the silverware. I found it on the website. I'm going to try it. And she tried and it worked. So that is the effect of cola, and not just the brown version. Let it be the orange version or the yellow version. Any of these colors, it's basically color, sugar, and a lot of chemicals, and it will increase acidity in the body to a larger extent.
Well, I think I'll hand over to the questions from the audience now. Madhu, can you just take over from here? And
Yeah, it'll be nice if you want to stop sharing your screen and then come in full screen also.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before I get to the audience question, I'm going to use my host privileges because I have an important question. I know all this, but I still sometimes, like you said, no, this mood is connected to the food, and I get this, if I'm feeling low, I want to crave some, like I crave some junk. How do we unlearn that habit?
Okay. So you will need the help of a coach or somebody who will just hold your hands for a month and keep you stable in your diet plan or in your health plan. And you will also need the help of an asana teacher who can see your patterns and discover your patterns and give you a practice which will help you stay away from getting into that low mood. Okay, so it's a lot of connection between the mind and body, so you have to address both, and you need help from somebody who can really do and help you in a way that you will not get back to this addiction. So what you can do is also start maintaining a diet journal and a mood journal. So when you just write down what happens in a day and the food choices that you're making. For instance, if you're going behind more of sugar, then it could be because of protein deficiency. So step up protein in your diet and see if the addiction is going down. And if it's an addiction for if you're looking forward for more of fries, then it could be omega-3 deficiency. So look for alternatives that is rich in omega-3, like your nuts and seeds, and have it as a regular thing in your diet every single day and see if there is a change. These are the simple things that you could do and identify what is causing the craving.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now I'll get to the audience question. So when you were showing alternatives, we have a question that is asking, do we have any healthy alternatives for Horlicks, Bournvita, things like that?
Yes, the most simple alternative is to have plain milk that is spiced with either cinnamon or cardamom or any of the spice, or just plain milk. That's the best choice that you can do. Otherwise, you can also make nut-based smoothies, soak 10 almonds and grind it with soaked chia seeds and 1 banana. So that could be a wonderful alternative. And you can also use coconut milk and grind tender coconut. You can grind tender coconut and 2 or 3 dates and pomegranate and make that into a smoothie. So there are a lot of these smoothie options that could be prepared without combining cow's milk and without using the deadly combination.
I'm sorry, I was muted, sorry. Is fermented food actually good for health?
That depends on your constitution. It cannot be generalized. In general, I would say it's good for health.
And what about healthier options like wheat bread and things that we consider are healthier options? Are they actually healthier options?
Okay. Yes, check the label. If you're going to buy a bread which says wheat bread and if it has something or INS that says INS or class 2 preservatives or nature and natural identical flavors, then it's not the right kind of bread. Instead, in India or at least in South India, I see a lot of home bakers these days who provide authentic whole wheat breads. So you can buy from them or you can learn to make your own bread. That's the toughest option. Little easier option is to buy from somebody who makes at home and just switch over to regular rotis instead of breads that are packaged.
And what are your opinions on fasting? Is it good to have fasting, or should healthy food be had at shorter intervals? What is your opinion on that?
The question is between fasting and
should we just have healthy food at short intervals, or is fasting good?
Okay, so this is highly individualized and it varies across seasons, even among the same person. For example, I was able to fast for longer time and longer duration during last winter, but in summer I had to change it. I had to eat small frequent meals. Now again the season is changing, so I have to eat at least 5 times a day. So likewise, you have to identify your own template and see what makes you feel healthy. There is no one hard and fast rule that says you have to fast for so many times in a day or so many times in a year. What you can do is just go with your culture's calendar. If you are a South Indian, you might understand this better. Like this month, this Puratasi, this month they go on a specific type of fasting where they don't consume any of the non-veg items. Likewise, there is a season during winter, Margari, which is between mid-December to mid-January, where they again don't consume any of the non-vegetarian items, because these are the seasons where there is a lot of transformation in microbes in the environment. And Ayurveda wise also, it's a season where there is slight change in the constitution in nature. So according to that, you have to modify your timing of eating and the type of eating slightly instead of just going by a single template.
And what are your opinions on keto diet, or maybe some of these fad diets in general?
Okay. See, you have already said it's a fad diet, and that's what it is. But for some people, keto is highly beneficial. So if you are someone who comes under that bracket where you are diabetic and obese, but your cholesterol level is not very high, then maybe you can try, but only under guidance. And keto diet cannot be a sustainable diet. It can only be for a period, because no one sustains it. I have not seen anyone sustaining the keto plan for longer than 1 or 2 years. So even if you go for a keto diet, do it for a while, get some results, and then slowly get back to sustainable and balanced eating.
The next question, I'm probably butchering this, is Garcinia cambogia good to reduce fat?
Garcinia cambogia, I think it's an extract from kokum. Yes, it will help in reducing fat, but reduction of fat doesn't just rely on a supplement. It relies on a lot of facts like what you're eating, how you're eating, and how you spend your day. So if you can manage all this and then give some supplements, it is definitely beneficial.
And we are the more is milk good or bad for health? What are your take? What's your take on milk?
Okay, good milk is good for health for individuals who can tolerate it. What is good milk? Milk that is not processed, that is not treated, that is not pasteurized, that doesn't come in a plastic packet. And if possible, if it can be from a cow that is grazed, then that could be classified as good milk, and it is good to you only if you have the ability to digest it, and if your body has the what do I say if you are a kapha dominant, in Ayurveda terms, if I have to say, if you're a kapha dominant person who has tendency to catch cold or who has tendency for wheezing, then it's not good for you. If you're a normal individual with normal balance in kapha, and if your pitta or vata is high, then definitely milk is good for you. Milk as milk and not with any of the additives, and not as curd, but as buttermilk, yes, it's fine. So it's high. Many of the questions are very specific, and it's like people are looking for one thing and they want to know whether it is black or white. But we have to understand that things have to be balanced, and you have to create your own template instead of following some type of diet or something that's being promoted in the WhatsApp or in the social media. Yeah.
I think that's a shift, mindset shift that we should all come to in various things. So the next question is, many parents feel that they don't have enough time to prepare the kind of like healthy foods, and children also insist on eating packaged foods. So how do you manage time, and as a mother especially, what is your tips on giving children healthy food?
Okay. So healthy snacks need not be a snack that has to be prepared. It could be something as simple as fruits and nuts. And if you can cut down the option of reaching out to junk and make it as only once a week or once a month, I would say, as a treat. And even that, if you can customize it to something like a pizza, which is a healthy pizza or healthy version, then definitely children will understand. All you need is to sit down and talk to them on the impact of such products. And children are very smart these days. They are able to understand why they are clumpy, or why their mood is low, or why they are not able to perform better, or why their memory is too low. These are things that you could connect with them on a daily basis and tell them that this is the reason, this is why you're feeling lethargic. So let's not do this. And see, this is what happened to this uncle because he had eaten so much of this junk for a longer span. If you can explain all this and provide only healthy options at home, which need not be something that has to be prepared, but just take and eat like fruits and nuts, I'm sure it's possible to make the change.
Sorry, and what about like mothers want the best, like they get influenced by these claims of like taller, stronger, and all that, and how do you change that mindset for mothers?
Okay, just show them some research papers and also tell them that if the children are going to grow taller than 6 feet or stronger than what they should be, how dangerous it is. And one simple example is a lot of girl children are reaching their menarche as early as 8 years. It's mainly because of this taller, stronger, and sharper, high sugar food, and that sugar influences excess growth in the body and excess fat accumulation in the body, and also influences your endorphins. It affects your endocrine system. No, these things are so invisible. The way these chemicals and this sugar and junk affects your endocrine system goes so much invisible that we forget to see all this. It's been masked. Yeah. If one can understand the danger of this, and what happens if your girl child is going to get her puberty as early as 8, and in the given scenario these days, they get married only in 25 or even after 30. Some people even get married in their mid 30s or early 40s. By then their ovulation period is already gone. So that's the reason, primary reason for so many fertility centers these days. Yeah, and it increases the estrogen production in girls earlier, and it increases the estrogen production in boys. What will happen if estrogen production increases in a man? So his testosterone production will drop, thereby his menarche will get delayed. So a boy reaches menarche by 17 or 18, whereas a girl reaches menarche as early as 8. What will happen to a society if it's like this, with so much difference? Yeah. So we just have to understand through research papers and publications, or just question deeply on why these children are getting early puberty, and why so many fertility centers across the city.
The next question is, so things like protein eggs that contain high amount of protein, or some of the supplements that are said to have like high protein and vitamins. If we, I'll give you a second, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. One of my AirPods dropped, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's the thing with AirPods, no, they keep dropping. Yeah. So the question was, how about some of these things that are said to have like high protein and vitamins? Can we ignore the effect of like the preservatives and all that, because we are not able to give that kind of proper diet to their children in this disease schedule?
See, when we say protein, it's not necessarily only in the form of supplements. Protein is present in a lot of items, like your dals, your legumes has 50% protein, So if you're a vegetarian, if you can ensure dal with every meal, then you're getting enough protein. If you're a non-vegetarian, if you're consuming 1 or 2 eggs per day for an adult, 1 or 2 eggs per day and a cup of dal with lunch and dinner, then you're sorted. Only if you're going to have proper activity or you're gymming, only then you will be in need for a protein supplement, where that supplement usually doesn't contain many of the preservatives because it's just an isolated compound, and that has to be taken only under guidance and not just blindly. And it should not be taken the moment you start gymming. It has to be taken only when the need arises. There are a lot of ways to meet the needs of protein naturally with nuts and seeds as snacks, and some amount of protein that is present in food naturally across the meals with all 3 meals. And if you're looking for other supplements in the market which says high protein, just check the label. For 100 grams, it would be anywhere from 2 to 8 grams, which is nothing. If you can just drink a glass of milk, which it is going to give you approximately 4.5 grams of protein. That's more than enough, and it's much cheaper in cost compared to all these regular supplements. So don't go by the things on the label which says high protein. Just check the label, check it versus the portion size. If 100 grams is going to give 8 grams of protein, how much of the product actually you can consume in one shot? If you can consume only 10 grams or 20 grams, then look at the number of protein, amount of protein that you get from the product. We have to also learn to interpret the label. Yeah.
I think this is the last question we have.
Okay.
The last question is, for someone who is aware of healthy foods and what's not unhealthy and all of that, but then they still say that, oh, but we only live once and we want to eat what we like. What would you tell them? Like, what is your suggestion?
Okay. What could I suggest for them? If you only live once and if you think living is just to eat, then whatever they say works. If we are eating to live, then what I say works. And if you can just see people, how they suffer in their 50s and 60s with the number of medications and pain in their body, this concept will not arise. If you want to live a life at your best health, even after in your 80s, where you can just sit down and get up like a spring and go for a marathon or go for trekking or live life peacefully without depending on anybody, even for your basic needs, then you have to eat healthy every single day. It depends on one's choice.
I know we get this question, Sandhya, constantly when we talk about organic food. We say, people say, why, anyway, all of us have to die one day. So what's the whole point eating organic food, And
Yeah.
what we tell them is that, look, it doesn't matter how long you live. It matters how well you live.
Exactly.
So like you exactly said, in our 70s or 80s, if we can be healthy, we are dependent on nobody, we can take care of ourselves. I think that would be a blessing. And for that, you have to invest today in good food and healthy food.
Yes.
I see a couple of more messages, but generally saying it's a nice informative session, etc. But before we get to, I think we missed one question there, which is about snack alternatives that you would suggest.
Okay. So I've already said, you can.
If you've covered it, that's fine.
Yeah, I've covered it. I can just say it again. Nuts, seeds, homemade laddus if it's children, and homemade nut balls, and date rolls, and fruits. These are the best snacking option, healthy option, and doesn't require any great preparation.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandhya. There are a lot of good comments here. I request Madhu to kind of save these comments and share it with Sandhya later. I think that'd be great. And once again, Sandhya, thanks a lot for having you, for joining us here. It was wonderful having you over at Bio Basics Huddle. Thanks for taking the time, and you have explained. I think it's very important to hear from someone like you who has the scientific, the nutritional background to talk about it authoritatively, at the same time understand the the traditional things that we have been doing. So for some of us, it's very important to hear the scientific basis of what we are also talking about. So thanks for that. And thank you everyone for having joined us at this Bio Basics Huddle. We hope the session was useful to all, and we sincerely hope you will reflect on this session, listen to it again, and choose safe food and eat clean. Feel free to reach out to BioBasics. Feel free to reach out to Wellness with Sandhya at Instagram as well as Facebook. And we will be happy to answer your questions. I'm sure Sandhya will also be happy to assist you with whatever your queries are. And the video recording of this will be available at our BioBasics YouTube channel. So please subscribe to that and stay tuned until we have our next BioBasics Huddle. So once again, thanks everybody. Thank you, Sandhya, once again. And goodbye and good night.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and for the wonderful initiative. Thank you.